and drop out live from the satellite of dreams, beaming directly into your eardrums. Our hosts talk about the games that persist in the hearts and minds of gamers everywhere. We have our hosts, the red shirt wearing Brogan and the green shirt wearing Murph. Today, we are going interdimensional with Super Paper Mario. To do this, we are going to have on podcast regular, King of the Koopas himself, David Punch. Hey, David, long time no see. I think the last one you did was Boktai?
No,
we did
Budokai.
Dragon Ball. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Budokai. I blocked that out.
He was the finale of last season.
Oh, man. It's good to have you back, David. I've heard you've taken a gaming, sabbatical. You've been away from it.
A little bit, yeah. Just, life happens and other things come and take hold and whatnot. But I think part of it is just, I'm a little lost on what I feel like playing. Currently I know that I've got my eyes set on whenever Metroid Prime 4 comes out. That's like the next big title that's like, I've got to buy that day one, right? But until then, I'm kind of like, I've been looking for something easy, right? Something almost kind of mindless, right? I don't want to get like too like absorbed into something just because I got a lot of other stuff going on.
I was going to say, in my experience, the games you play typically demand a lot of hours.
Well, he also plays like game versions of board games about migrating birds.
This is true, right? So there's like two kinds of things. There's like really intensive games where you just get totally lost and absorbed and you play for hours on end, right? Or like very mindless, like pick up and start stuff, right? And you can also put lots of hours into, but more so kind of at your own discretion or addiction, I guess in my case.
I think that's just the duality of modern man, bro. Like,
yeah,
you're either really in it or you're not thinking about it, but you're still in it.
So, I've been like trying to pick up like just whatever tiny little things here and there. A lot of like trying different like arcade stuff or other like roguelikes and stuff and things to whatever the new craze is, right? That you can just kind of like get easily absorbed into, pick up and start, but. It's been hard to find something that's really kind of like scratching the itch. That's kind of where I've been at. So like bouncing between like, various like I'm playing a little Tetris today, or maybe I'll pick up this roguelike I picked up like a game called Curse to Golf was like one of the last ones that kind of caught my attention. I was like, it's a golfing roguelike with cute pixel art and stuff.
I've heard of this game.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
It was fun to try, but again, like just not quite scratching the itch, I don't know.
Do you normally get into golf games?
A little bit, like, any kind of like mini golf games and stuff, right? Where it's like, they kind of feel like fun puzzles, and I feel like that's constantly what I'm kind of looking for. I'm looking for something that's like a little bit of like a puzzle, you try like a little bit of that, serotonin you get in your brain, right? When you solve the thing, you're like, I figured out how to do the thing. Oh yeah.
Well, are you taking recommendations?
I'm here. That's the whole reason I'm here today. I mean, like I played the game of the week, of course, right? But this is why we come to the Daydream Cast, right? For great game recommendations, personally suited to me.
Well, we've already talked about it, and I don't necessarily know if it's fully tailored to you, but what you're describing sounds like I could prescribe you the experience you want, which is UFO 50, which was recently released on Switch, which makes it perfect.
Yes, perfect for me.
I don't know how much you know about this game, David, but it's pretty good.
All right. Well, let me hear the Brogan pitch, I guess. I'm very interested to hear about it because if you've got the cure, I'm dying for it.
It did win one of those Golden Dream Awards last year.
It did. The one where it's like it should have been the game of the year, but Murph had different tastes, I suppose.
I hadn't finished it. I'd only played 25 of 50 games. Maybe the rest of those are stinkers.
That's the thing. Is it is patterning off like back in the day they used to have like compilation games like Action 52 or like it's meant to be 50 games from a fictional game company from the 80s. And what you're doing is playing through their fictional catalog. And so, like, the first game's I recommend playing it in chronological order, but there's multiple orders you can play in. And you're just trying different games. They are fully fledged games. They're not, like, half-baked demos. But I would say you'd probably spend about, 45 minutes to 2 hours. Though there are some meatier ones that probably are, like, more like 8 to 9 hours. There's, like, 2 major RPGs in there. And it really depends on the genre, because there's 2 golfing game.
It's
right?
as much content as actual NES games can have.
Yes.
Some are Tetris, some are Zelda 2.
Yeah. Yes. Basically, you're running through a fictional list of a bunch of ROMs, basically, and you're playing which one's like, oh, do I like this? There's a lot of aha moments. The way I phrase it is there's multiple paths of enjoyment. The first path of enjoyment is going to be you looking at the game going, what is this? And then seeing how it works and going, oh, that's neat. Then the next step in that is being like, do I want to commit to this? And then you'll be like, yes, I do. And then so you'll play it enough and you'll be like, either, okay, I've gotten my fill of it, or I want to beat it. And then once you beat it, the last level, or the next level there is mastery. There's a golden thing, which is beating it. There's a cherry, and then there's little side objectives that allow you to add to the little garden. So the cherry and the garden are like really meant to emphasize extra playtime. So if you're in love with the game, you can keep playing it, and it gives you a reason to keep playing. But also, there's 50 games here. You can say fuck it to this one game, and who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the garden aspect is kind of done like diegetically. Like this fictional game console you're playing on had a sort of like Dreamcast VMU sort of deal where it has a virtual pet, and by doing achievements in the various games, you unlock enrichment for your virtual pet. Okay. I think for me the biggest appeal of UFO 50 is not just that the games are all really interesting on their own and feel like they could have released in that time, but the meta aspect of the fictional history of this company. Like the games actually do start out like quote unquote old game shitty, and then they get like more quality of life as they go on, and you see recurring like mascots and such, and games
characters, and there's even sequels, right?
And spin-offs.
So spin-offs and sequels to like a franchise. So when they make a franchise like Velgress, you're seeing the same heroine in multiple games, or you're seeing Mortal 1 and Mortal 2 and how they expand upon each other. Or Campanella is like the mascot franchise here. And it's a lot of like movement with the UFO, but there's like, it transforms into multiple genres. There's a race genre with it, or there's like a little adventure action genre. I think one of my other personal things is it's very stylistic and wacky. I think one of the ones that like I look fondly on is this like racing game where you're not racing, you're betting on like little things racing, and like in between the games, you can cheat. You can like fill your thing with steroids or like other things. It's why it's like rated M in Europe.
I think if you
because of like the gambling aspect.
Yeah, I think if you took that concept and made it about like anthropomorphic horse girls, you'd have a 2025 banger.
Yeah.
Is that
yes?
Is that going to be your other recommendation to me?
Yes. You know what, David? You look like a gambling man.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally.
No, I think UFO 50 is a very solid, like, not just like the game history, but again, it's 50 full games.
Right.
Like, that's wildly impressive. Like, I got lost just playing, like, a Tactics,
did you guys have, like, any favorites, any ones that really stood out that'd be like, I would play this one for hours?
I would need to look at the list. The second one, Bug Hunt, I think, is the one where I lost the most time. And that's sort of like a tactics roguelite, where you are sort of you're building. It's kind of a deck builder, I guess you would call it, where you're eliminating bugs on a grid, and your guy has movement and attack cards that you sort of like fill out your bottom panel with, and then you can also pick up currency that you can use to buy new cards that are like randomly selected each round. And then you're trying to clear all the bugs before they can evolve and mutate and take over the world. Like that one I lost a lot of time to because of the RNG aspect. Fuck the little like blue guys that can't be killed until their adjacent allies are killed. Fuck those men. I would also say Tactics. I believe that's what it's called. It's like an NES RTS, where it's like a lane defense, and you are plonking down dudes that just go in a straight line into the enemy's dudes that are going in a straight line, and you're trying to gauge, like, oh, I can fortify this lane up, and, like, really plow through the enemy defense and get to their base and deal damage.
Yep. I think too that I would recommend to you is Grimstone, which is a JRPG. It's formatted like a Final Fantasy meets a Dragon Quest, but the real gimmick is it's a Western. And you can choose your starting classes, and all the classes are slightly different. Like the healer is a Native American fist fighter, but has healing and spell properties. There's, a dog, there's a sharpshooter, there's like a big tanky, heavy machine gun class. There's a bunch of different classes that are all really satisfying there, and it is a decent RPG. It's not crazy long, but it's something fun, really enjoyable. Another one I really enjoyed was Night Manor, which was it's an adventure game, first person perspective, and you're going through a mansion, and there's basically a serial killer trying to hunt you down, and it's like zombified with funguses. Or fungi, I should say, but like you're trying to find the wrench to open up the lawnmower, to fix the lawnmower, to get the key, etc., etc. And it's really fun. Puzzle stuff, yes, exactly.
Okay, it sounds like there's a good variety of things that would really scratch the David itch in here. You said that, as soon as you said Western theming on the turn-based RPG style game, I'm like, oh my god, I'm there. Put the game in my hands.
Mm-hmm. There's even
and worst case scenario, if you don't like one, just move on to the next.
There's 49 others.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds like a good deal. Guess I'll look into that.
Yeah. Now,
did you play a game recently?
Me?
Yeah, it says David has a game.
I mentioned it. I was mentioning Curse to Golf.
Oh, that was very brief.
That was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aside from that, though, I'll make a confession and say that when I really don't know what I feel like I'm playing, I usually just boot up Suika Game and I try and make a watermelon.
There you go.
Fair enough. Let me tell you this. How about I recommend you Whole?
Whole?
Okay. Yeah, I think...
Okay, I know we've known each other for a long time, Murph, but that's... I feel this is very sudden anyway.
Well, you're a man in your 30s. I think it's, have you tried Whole?
Yeah.
I am a connoisseur of Whole, let me tell you. I love me some Whole.
Thank you, Brogan. Thank you for saying what we were all thinking. I feel like this is a safe space to admit that, no, actually, I don't know in this case, Murph. Why don't you tell me about Whole?
Whole is a game that released in early access around the end of last year and had its full release pretty quickly into this year. It is described as a casual hard shooter. And what that means is it's an extraction shooter with sort of quote-unquote realism elements. But it's something like an Escape from Tarkov, if you're familiar with that. And Escape from Tarkov is a game about you, suit up in your realistic military gear and head into a zone that has, PvP and PvE elements. There are other enemy players, and you're all sort of, looking for loot and then getting out. And it's like dynamic. Sometimes the other players may shoot you, sometimes you may team up and like take on other players, etc. It's dynamic. I couldn't handle the pressure of a game like that, the PvP element. So Whole is entirely single player, but it recreates that feeling because there are enemies that spawn into the maps, but they belong to different factions. Now, if you ask me what the story of Whole is, I don't think I could really tell you. It's a lot of vagaries, and I think it's not meant to have a story. You get into the maps by turning on a floating microwave until it fills with potatoes, and that generates the hole that you fall into.
Okay.
Huh.
All right.
All right.
It has like a lo-fi polygon art style. It looks a little vapor wavy. The first level is an empty office building, and that's really kind of the best level to get your feet on the ground, because the other two levels are much more open and have a lot more sight lines that dudes can just gank you. You start off with like almost no health. You only have a pistol. You have unlimited ammo, but firing your pistol too much can cause it to jam. And this is actually one of my favorite mechanics in the game that I kind of wish I saw elsewhere. It's your very standard FPS gameplay for a PC, where right-click aims down sights, left-click fires, but your middle mouse button cocks your gun. So, and that's used for the different guns you unlock. For your pistol, you press that to unjam it when it's overheated. For something like the sniper rifle, you use that to eject the bolt and put in the new one. And the reloading's also manual. And so you drop into these maps, kind of like look around, and you're looking for data, which is dropped from floating cardboard boxes and golden duck vending machines, and you're looking for cash, which you get from killing enemies. And the enemies all have these, like, primary colors. There's red, blue, yellow, and they make, like, sort of, like, what are those automaton sounds? They're just kind of like, me, me, moo, moo, me, me, moo, 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 moo. You know, it's a weird game. It's a weird type game. Kind of, like, verges into horror with some things. If down in your bottom left corner, there's a number that will tick up the longer you're in a map, and the higher that number gets, the better the enemy AI will get, the better their gear will get, and let's just say weird shit starts popping up.
Okay.
And as you go through and you complete objectives, you kind of upgrade your base in the sewers, you unlock additional guns, you unlock permanent like stat progression, like more health, faster reloads, a quiet walk, and then white mask enemies called bagheads will start spawning in the maps, and those will drop schematics for parts for your gun, so you can get like infrared dot sights, laser pointers, flashlights, different types of ammo. So there is a progression to it, and eventually you will cap out. I capped out at about 6 hours, which I think is the perfect length for this game. I think this game is actually a very ideal version of itself. You start off very weak and unsure and afraid of what you're doing, and by the end, I was like actively seeking out firefights that were happening, and then just going in and John Wicking them all. I felt amazing. You feel like a god.
Okay.
But yeah, right now you can pick it up for $5 normally. Right now it's on sale for $4. I think it's a steal at that price.
I mean, most
for
games
something
are at that price, yeah.
For something that you can just like drop in, drop out, like that's what it means by it's a casual hard shooter. I've seen some reviews call it this is the extraction shooter for dads, and I really like feel that. It gives you the thrill of playing an FPS where you don't have a reticle, while not giving you the pressure of going up against someone who is like has 7 different wiki tabs open and knows like the drop off of the fall off 40 at 30 paces and what have you.
Okay, that's selling me.
Yeah.
I saw Murph play this game on stream for like a little bit, and I was wowed by it. it also feels a little bit like a post void in terms of the cycle of like not clearing a floor because you can't clear the floor, but like you go through a floor, get to the hole, and then you move on to the next one, and then like having it be a frantic, win-lose state.
Yeah, you can like die pretty quick to like, because you can die to headshots. If the enemy AI is good enough, or they're lucky enough, they can headshot you and you'll die, and you'll get a little printout that shows where on your body they shot you for the kill shot. That's fun, and when you die, you lose 90% of the resources you had picked up, but objectives for like tasks you've been given, those will always populate. So sometimes you go into a hole with a mission of like kill 5 red guys and take their masks or their blood or their potted plants. And as long as you do that, it doesn't matter if you die, you still complete that quest.
All right.
So that's whole. I thought it was time you learned about the facts of life.
Thank you for the education. My dad never taught me about that kind of thing. So I'm glad you were here for me, Murph, to go over.
Did your dad ever take you to Chuck E. Cheese?
No, I don't think there was one near us, too. Yeah.
Implying that there's a Chuck E. Cheese on Whidbey Island.
Right. I remember when they built the Walmart, damn it.
Oh, that's a big deal. Yeah, they built one in Niceville when I was 18, and it was a big deal. Oh my gosh. Anyways, guys, I played Dead by Daylight. I've been playing Dead by Daylight, and we're going to get into some things here. But the primary thing is Springtrap came out for Dead by Daylight. And I am a killer in Dead by Daylight primarily. Mm-hmm. I'm only not a killer when I don't want to be stressed. It's kind of a stressful game. But if I feel like being mean and killing 4 people and just being as toxic as possible, I'll go killer.
Okay.
Because it's a 1v4 game. I don't know if David knows the thing here, but the premise is there.
It's hide and seek.
And it's hide and seek. But even then, the game has evolved in the past 10 years. I would say there's not a lot of hiding. I would say the primary person hiding is actually usually the killer, if it's a stealth killer. Otherwise there's just loops. So once you see a survivor, they're gonna run around and try to run as much as they can from you while everyone else is getting stuff done. It's a delicate balance here. But anyways, Springtrap came out and the Five Nights at Freddy's map came out, which is another map, but they just kind of changed one of the buildings. But the building in the actual Five Nights at Freddy's building is really good. It looks like the movie building. So that's okay. And then Springtrap as a killer is fun. He has 2 main gimmicks. One of them kind of doesn't make sense for the franchise. It's just a thing. He can throw an axe and it can get lodged in a person, which will register as a thing. And then he can take the axe out and it's an instant grab.
We played FNAF 3. I don't remember Springtrap ever busting out his Zweihander.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's just to spice up the actual chase and combat part of it, because the axe actually throws differently than any other projectile in the game, and it also serves more purpose and utility than just throwing it to hit somebody. Sometimes you can have it in the ground, and then that will if you leave it in the ground and chase someone around, if they run near it, they're gonna scream, which means you know where they are, or it'll also slow them down, possibly depending on your add-ons. So there's a little bit of a trap setup there. But the actual other main mechanic of Springtrap is when he is the killer, there's security doors. And there's security doors throughout the map, and you or the survivors can go through them and basically teleport across the map. And the survivors can also check the cameras on the doors to see where you're at.
Huh. Okay. So they did kind of add a bit of the FNAF gameplay in there. Because you've talked about Dead by Daylight previously, I think when Chucky was dropped. And I don't remember asking,
Yes.
does Dead by Daylight normally add these very, like, mechanically divergent, like, killers? Like, does each killer change up the gameplay like that?
Yes. The primary change in the gameplay is who the killer is. Yes, even for survivors, like all the survivors are basically reskins.
Even Nick Cage?
And the only thing that changes among them is perks.
So how does
That's like the only difference. But go ahead.
Yeah, how does the experience for the survivors change? Like, what does the strategy change based on the different killers? Like, do you have different?
Okay, yeah,
approaches?
I can give examples. I can walk through this. So basically, the main goal for them is to fix or repair 5 generators and then go through the exit gates. So what's going to change depending on the killer is I'm going to take a Ghostface, for example. Ghostface, what he does is he crouches and he hides. He has like no terror radius. You can't hear him. And he'll hide and he'll peek through corners and stare at you. And if he stares at you long enough, he can down you in one hit. Right? So he is meant to hide and then see you and then he'll attack. And he'll stalk you. Michael Myers has that in a similar way, but it's meant for the entire group, and he'll go into like a mode where he can just hit anybody in one hit. He'll like just stalk anybody, and like once his meter's full, it'll go. But let's take the nurse. The nurse is loud. She screams all the time. However, she teleports. She literally just holds her right mouse button and teleports. So she is going to be flying across the map. You're not trying to look. You're not trying to look around for a ghost face. You're instead trying to outrun someone who's teleporting all around. And because the maps change, sometimes the map is more beneficial for one killer than the other. Like there's maps with a lot of corridors. That means the nurse has difficulty teleporting because I can't see through a wall. But if it's like an open cornfield, you're kind of fucked. I'm about to get your ass. Or Chucky's very tiny. He's literally tiny. He's a fucking doll. So he's loud. So because he's making jokes the entire time when he's attacking you. Okay. But you can't see him. So like you'll only see him once he's on you and about to jump at you. So there's a little bit of that as well, and he'll also, instead of breaking pallets, he can also like crawl through pallets super fast, which is like the main way to slow killers down is you drop a pallet and they have to break it. Chucky will just run through it. There's a bunch of other random ones. Like there's an Oni who once he hits you, you'll leave like little blood tracks. So he'll be easier at tracking you. Once you get hit, he's going to track you. Or the Jigsaw Killer is going to put a cage on you for the head trap. And instead of doing the gens, you're going to have to do a separate game to fix or to get the trap off you, or else you will die in like 2 minutes.
So what color is that Oni?
I was gonna say, is the Blueberry on center whatever a map that you can play on?
Oh, not yet, but give it time.
If they add Ow Oni to Dead by Daylight, I am there day one. You can show me the ropes, Brogan. I want that experience.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. But I did want to complain because I think the one primary part of this game that sucks is the ongoing support and like the wild patches. So recently, the actual most recent patch was the Walking Dead patch. So they released like, what is it, Rick, Michonne, and what's Daryl as like survivors. And for some reason, I don't know why, I think it's the event, it busted the game. Like it broke the game. There's a bunch of glitches in it. They haven't fixed like half of them. So like I think that is the actual primary problem with the experience is that at any point in time in like a month, behavior is just going to completely fuck up the game, and then you're going to drop off it for like 3 months, and then something else is going to happen. You're like, oh yeah, I guess I should re-download that, and then you re-download it, and you're back to here on a podcast, and you're talking about it again. That's what happens.
So is Dead by Daylight just kind of like, well, how do I want to phrase this? The fan base is there because they have nowhere else to go, because it seems like every other asymmetrical horror game just gets like shut down after a year of support. Like the Texas Chainsaw game did that, Friday the 13th game did that, but all I ever hear about Dead by Daylight is they got this crazy crossover, and also the fan base hates the devs.
You know, it's one of those things where I think it's sort of become an institution, or it's the one to go to. The secret to any multiplayer game is it will die if it doesn't have people. Right? So that's the secret. The reason why people go to Dead by Daylight is because there are already people there. And I played Friday the 13th, and I really liked it. And I like Texas Chainsaw as well. They are actually more interesting and more involved for survivors and killers in terms of what you do. Like in Friday the 13th, you have a lot of options to escape. You can call the police. Oh, but Jason can cut the phone lines. Like, there's a lot of, like, actual differences in the thing. But the problem is number one, complexity kind of makes it hard to get into. And number two, like, if there's nobody playing it and it's a glitchy mess, don't keep playing it. At the very least, Dead by Daylight will always have people playing it. So that's why people go to it. And it's also, like, got the most shit to it. Like, yeah, I guess you could pick up a Friday the 13th game, but there's only so much you can do with it. Whereas, like, Dead by Daylight is, like, it's the Super Smash Bros. It's the Fortnite. It's got all of them. So, and that means it brings variety to each game, you know?
Yeah. What do you feel is like the missing representation for the horror franchises?
As of now, they still don't have Jason, but I get the feeling that yeah, I mean, because of the license.
It had its own game, yeah.
It had, well, not just that, but like for years they just had problems acquiring the license. It wasn't clear who owned what for a little bit. I think they solved that now, but even then they just never brought it over. But I mean, I don't know. I would be interested to see more modern horror stuff. I'm not a particular big fan of the franchise, but like the Terrifier franchise, I'd be like, okay. Like, yeah, why not put them in? Or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of newer options that Dead by Daylight's not going to, and instead we're putting in, like, Tomb Raider, which, you know, I have no problem against Lara Croft.
Okay.
But it's like, okay, you're stretching the definition a little bit when there's still a lot you can do with it.
I think they should add the shark from Jaws.
People have wanted it.
It's the 50th anniversary. It's time.
I agree.
I think they
should do like a map.
Horror icon.
They should add
like
Gary
literally.
Busey's.
There could be a map in a Survivor, probably.
They should add Gary Busey's The Ginger Dead Man.
Yeah.
There you go. Ooh. Candyman. I need the Candyman.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one. Yeah. They've got an infinite pool to pull from.
That's what I'm saying. All right. Oh, the next one's me too. You know, it gives me so much rage to play these games.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. When they don't enable your toxicity, as you said.
Yeah.
So tell me about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. I have heard not necessarily polarizing, but the scuttlebutt amongst the game journos we hang out with, like, this game is either like a 6-7 out of 10 average, or it's a 10 out of 10 generational experience.
It is not a 10 out of 10 generational experience. However, it's pretty good for what it is. Honestly, there's a lot of games that imitate what Ninja Gaiden was, and I feel like none of them hit the mark. I think Ragebound does hit the mark, so I think it's unfair to give it like a 6. Like, I've played bad ninja games like this before, and it's not one of those. It's not The Messenger. It's not even Cyber Ninja, and I like Cyber Ninja or Cyber Shadow. I forget the name off the top. But, like, both of those are like, okay, yeah, all right. Whereas this one's like, oh, fuck yeah. This is by the Blasphemous developers. And I've always enjoyed Blasphemous. The art, the music is gorgeous, super fun, but also the combat is pretty good for a 2D platformer. And it's like rewarding. I feel like the enemy design and the level design probably could use a little work, and it's a little long in the tooth. But I think this is definitely an experience where, like, there's so many imitators in the genre, or there's so many ones in the genre that are like, okay, yeah, this is B tier, that I would give it A tier. Like, I would give this game an A grade. but I don't necessarily think it would be like in any top 10 lists, any, maybe top 10 for the year, but not, it would not fulfill any hearts and minds forever. You know what I mean? It's not it's not a banger like that.
Yeah, it can't stand the test of time, but it's pretty good right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when you say like that Ninja Gaiden gameplay, in my mind Ninja Gaiden has like two gameplays. There's like when it was 2D and when it became 3D. Is this taking more like the 2D approach but adding elements from the 3D, or is it strictly like mainlining that NES era shit?
Well, I mean, it's not 8-bit. It's like that. It's sprite work, but it's not any like specific retro design or whatever. It is a 2D Ninja Gaiden game. Most things die in one hit.
Okay.
And like if it doesn't, it's usually signposted that, oh, this is a big guy, I'm gonna have to hit him multiple times, or like, oh, there's an aura around him, I'm gonna have to charge up my thing. But otherwise, it's just classic NES Ninja Gaiden style.
Is it levels or is it like a world?
It's levels.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of extra like ninja parts to it, like a lot of different shurikens or different things to use your magic with. Or ninja arts have different like screen clears or heals. There's a lot of different customization options you can do there. But like in terms of combos or whatever, it's just you're mashing the fucking attack button.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's not reinventing the wheel.
But you're being crispy with the attacks.
It feels crisp. The platforming feels crisp. All that stuff feels really, really good. So it works. And like, I wish that the bosses... I think the bosses are a highlight where it's like, oh, this is so different than the main game. I always feel that way about like... I felt that way about Blasphemous, and I felt that way about Hollow Knight. And I know those are technically a different genre, but it's also not. It's like combat platformer, right? Where it's like, it feels like the main game is completely different from the fucking boss battle. And you're like, okay, this boss battle is now a dance routine I have to learn. And like, once I've learned it and I beat it, it's over. And now I'm playing a normal game again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. Where it's sort of like... damn it, I had an example in my head. But I get that feeling of like, the gameplay is this, but the boss is this, Yeah. I totally get that feeling, because one is about forward momentum, the other is about, like you said, that dance. And I could see that being frustrating. Have you beaten it?
No, but I mean, I got pretty far. I mean, there's like a lot of missions here. I think I'm about
so it is a full experience.
Yes, it's a full experience. I'm about I want to say 15 missions in. There's also a bunch of side missions, so I don't know if I'm counting those or not off the top. But I am in the midst of it. I've combined the 2-player characters I guess I should just spoil that. Yeah, why not? And then I've also gotten the gems and stuff. So
this game has
I'm at
gems.
That point. Yeah, it's got. Don't worry about it. It's just part of the thing. It means you can choose the levels in different orders, and I've beaten those. And it may be long. I definitely feel like some levels outstay their welcome. But what I also enjoy is that a level doesn't try to be everything all at once. Sometimes a level is just like, yes, this is going to be the fucking platforming level, or this is going to be the weird level, or this is going to be the level where there's a bunch of fire and you're going to have to scale rooftops, or you're going to have to kill a bunch of shit. There's sometimes there's a little bit of that stuff, but most of the time it's dedicated, where you're like, oh, I see what this is doing.
Yeah, I do like a good gimmick level lineup in my platformers and my shooters. I think I mentioned that way back in the Half-Life episode. I like when a level is oh, this is the Mario level about explicitly jumping on moving platforms, or this is the FPS level that's the shotgun level. That's for me. That's good for replayability.
And, like, to defend the boss thing real quick, I just remembered one of the levels is there's literally a level at, like, a construction site. And, like, the boss is in the background. And, like, basically, if you are not hiding behind cover when the boss does, like, a screen clear every, like, minute or so, you'll take damage. So you'll hide behind something. The boss will do its like big attack, and then you'll continue throughout the stage. And then when you finally get to the boss, oh fucking duh, it has that move, and you're like, oh, I know what they're doing as they're doing it. So like, I think that's like a really good symmetry. They do that stuff smart, so I can't complain.
Does it feel like Ninja Gaiden is back? Because we've been like sandblasted with Ninja Gaiden as of late. Like, the Ninja Gaiden was dead, and then it was, like, alive times 2.
I think the actual answer to that will be if 4 is good. 4 will probably be good enough, but I think already there's been some, like... It'll be better than, like, a lot of its contemporaries, and I guess it will be back in, like, the sense that people are excited for it again. But I think there's something lost with Ninja Gaiden 4 as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I mean, it was a good, like, triple header they did. It was like, okay, we're doing the remake of Ninja Gaiden 2, and then also we're doing a 2D Ninja Gaiden and a 3D Ninja Gaiden all releasing the same year. Like, could you imagine if, like, Nintendo did that for Zelda? That would be like that would be the greatest Nintendo Direct that a Blue Skyer has ever seen.
If this was a fucking Castlevania or like a fucking Mega Man, I'd be like, oh my god,
yeah,
so many of them. Instead, we get a mid fucking Pac-Man Metroidvania. Jesus Christ, 6 out of 10.
Speaking of mid. Midst. It is time for the final numerical Myst Minute with Myst 5, The End of Ages. This is the end of the Myst chronology. After this, we only have, like, side games and remakes. So this is where Myst ends. That's why it's called The End of Ages. This released in 2005, published by Ubisoft. I believe it is, again, a different dev from Myst 3 and 4. Oh, yes, this one was developed in-house, actually. This was made by Cyan. The brothers Miller came back for this one, and Rand Miller actually considers it the best of the franchise. So questionable taste there. How I would describe Myst 5 is, I'm tired, boss. Okay. So Myst 5 opens with fucking Atris writing in his fucking journal, I'm so tired of Myst. I've been alive too long, and Myst has existed as a franchise for too long. It's time for it to come to a dovetail. It's time for things to end. Now, what's fucked up about Myst 5 is it's not actually a sequel to Myst, it's a sequel to WHOOOO, Ages Beyond Myst. It is done in the WHOOOO engine. It's a sequel, like in timeline to WHOOOO, where Atris's daughter Yisha is now like an old woman, and she summons you, the player, who is not the stranger from the first 4 Myst games. It's actually one of the side characters mentioned in WHOOOO, the founder of the Dunny Research Committee. And she's like, in WHOOOO, you freed the Barrow, which were the Dunny slaves, which are giant insectoid men that are invisible and everywhere and have magic powers. You freed them from their pocket dimension, but they are still enslaved to the Dunny people, all 3 of them, through this tablet. This hitherto unmentioned tablet. What the tablet is, where it came from, what it does, you fuck you. But you need to go into 4 ages created by the Barrow to get pieces of the tablet and power them up and put them together, and then you will be given the choice of if slavery is good or not. and Yisha monologues at you for a while at the start of the game about how she shouldn't be trusted because she's been doing this for so long, she's crazy. And you find her journals, and she just goes on and on about the Dunny religion and how there's like this prophecy of the Watcher, and the Watcher lines up with Atris's life, and the Watcher will give birth to the Grower, who will restore the Dunny civilization. And Yisha's like, I'm the Grower, but the tablet doesn't work for her, so she gets you.
But what if you're a shower, not a grower?
That could be one of the endings, because after Yisha's done talking at you for a while, you take 5 steps, and then David Ogden Stiers shows up, and he talks in this ambiguously European accent at you for a while about how he is one of the oldest Dunny men, and he's, again, hasn't been mentioned before, but he is of the pure blood Dunny of their original home planet of Krypton. That's not a joke. They come from a planet with a red sun that died to earthquakes before they came to New Mexico.
Okay.
And David Ogden Stiers tells you that, like, you shouldn't trust Yisha, but my mind is still intact, and I think we can use the Borrow to actually, like, get the Dunny civilization starting again. And you never see Yisha again until the very, very end of the game. But after every fucking puzzle you complete in this game, fucking David Ogden Stiers shows up again and monologues at you about how slavery is useful in empire building.
What I don't get is every time you talk about these games as they're going, it's getting getting bogged down by a lot of story elements, a lot of characters, and a lot of talking, and like. I don't know, Myst and Riven had like a little bit of it. Myst has barely any of it. I'm wondering at what point does the mystery at what point did the mystery completely give up? Was it 3?
I think it was when the novels came out. The novels that were made post Riven as set up for WHOOOO, because the brothers Miller made Myst and Riven, and then they were like, our magnum opus is going to be WHOOOO. This MMO, this revolutionary MMO about, like, you communally doing archaeology on this lost civilization, this Atlantis. And there's something to that idea, right? And that's why WHOOOO is just filled with lore. Like, literally, you can get the Prima Strategy Guide, and it has all the lore documents in it. It's 500 pages.
See, what I don't get is, like, if I was the Millers, which I am not, I'm not good enough to create a Myst or a Riven, so fuck my opinion. But I would make sequels that are like, I would do things differently, where it was like, maybe I would go to a completely new world, completely new age, different faces. You could still have the structure of going to ages, exploring a world, figuring out how the world works without involving the same characters.
Yeah.
It feels almost incestuous to keep bringing back Atris all the fucking time. I'm kind of done about hearing of him. I'm done.
Yeah.
You're old. You're fucking old, dude.
Yeah,
Go.
that's something that was confusing me, because at the very end of the game, if you do the good ending, Atris is there, and he's like a hunched over old man with a walking stick. Even though in the game Yisha like keeps talking about how he's dead, I guess like dead to her. But like something not really said outright in the lore is that like Dunny people just live for 3 centuries. Because OG Myst, which, again, if you go by WHOOOO's lore, isn't real. Myst is a in-universe edutainment game, but that's set in, like, the 1800s, So, I think, I guess if you pull back, Myst, the numerical franchise, has, like, 2 stories it tells. One is about Atris and his family, his bastard sons and his bastard father. That's the plot of Myst 1 through 4. And that resolves in Myst 4, where Atris gets closure with his sons. The second plot, which is started in the books, and continued into sort of into Myst 3, but mainly in WHOOOO in this, is Atris as the last son of this ancient, lost, magical civilization, and him grappling with, is this worth bringing back when it's so wondrous, but it was built on so much, like, colonialism and like, hierarchy.
Okay, I have a question. This is another question. We haven't talked about it a little bit, but now that we're talking about slavery is bad, it's time to really get into it. How?
Oh no!
I also affirm that slavery is bad.
We're talking about whole in slavery on this episode of
just put that on the record for me. Make sure that one stays.
Okay, I won't edit that out.
Yeah, David, you cut out there a little bit. You said you think slavery is good.
Coolsville sucks.
No, bad.
What are the politics of the Rand brothers, and how much do you think it's sprouted, or how much do you think it's how much of this is an affectation pretending to say something, and how much of this is maybe the Millers are libertarians and they just fucking, you know what I mean? What's going on here? Can you explain the politics?
It's so interesting that you bring that up, because when I got to WHOOOO, I was diving into that, because WHOOOO has a lot of, religious texts. Like, that whole prophecy that Yisha went on about at the start of Myst 5, that's a whole, book you can read in WHOOOO. And I forget what, there's just something a little, Mormon about the whole Dunny concept.
Sure.
Of when you reach the top of the Dunny society, you get your own age, your own personal world, which is something that, at high level Mormonism is a thing. As far as I can tell, I don't think the brothers Miller are Mormon. Rand Miller was on a podcast that I didn't finish, which was about Catholic game designers and how he puts his faith into his work. I think it's kind of like a Butch Hartman thing, where he's retroactively, my games are filled with religious messages and imagery.
Uh-huh.
And it's so weird because Riven has religious imagery, but it's also critical because it's about what's his name, Ghent?
Yeah, Ghent,
yeah, and it's about how he is pretended to be a deity to these people, and he is a mean, fierce, false deity. You know what I mean? I otherwise you really don't see a lot in the Myst and Riven about productive or good religion. It's always harmful, because these ages, the idea of having your own age and having your own universe, but these are real people with real feelings, is a problem.
And I think it's it smacks of the wannabe fantasy author who writes 1,000 years of history for his little bullshit world, and he only just wants to keep adding lore and not actually write a story set in there, because stories require character arcs, and they're really more about the body politic of how civilizations are founded on rivers and trade routes, you know?
Yeah.
That seems to be much more where I think Rand Miller's interests lie in storytelling, because he was the one that wrote the books. And the second and third Myst books are very much here's the life of this politician in Dunny. And it's I believe I used the comparison, it's like Phantom Menace, where it's this plot's going on, and then it's we must now meet with the trade guilds about the secession of the state, you know?
Yeah, that's wild.
So as far as actual playing Myst 5, like I said, it is done in the WHOOOO engine, so it's real-time rendered environments. This is a Myst game you can run around in. You can toggle a setting to have fixed the fixed POVs in the node gameplay. Don't do that. You will be so incredibly bored, because these levels are open, and it takes a while to traverse them. And my main issue is they still kind of have the Myst puzzles where you're fiddling with machinery, but they're just they just don't hit. They really don't hit, and I think that's because this is based on, like, the Uru model of gameplay, where what you're actually looking for is, like, little symbols hidden off in the distance. Your main gameplay gimmick is that you have these tablets, these fragments of these tablets, and you draw symbols on them, and they cause things to happen in the world. Now, when you're holding the tablet, you can't climb ladders. So catch one. Catch two is, it took me a while to figure out how this thing actually, like, works. Because I found symbols, I wrote down the symbols, and nothing happened. There's these pedestals you can drop the tablet on. I thought, oh, maybe I write the symbol, put it on the pedestal, and then a thing happens. No, what you actually do is you drop the tablet on the ground, and you walk away. And then one of the Borrow will, like, appear, and if they like your symbol, they'll take the tablet and put it on that pedestal, and if they don't like it, they'll just vanish. Now we all had Nintendo DS's in our youth.
Yes.
What do you think might go wrong on a gameplay level in this game where you have to draw specific symbols to solve puzzles?
Yeah. I'm sensing a Phantom Hourglass situation here.
There's a wee bit of where I was like, am I doing this wrong, or is it not reading my drawing correctly? You know? And when I say that the drawing symbols causes changes in the environment, you know, when I first saw and heard that, I was like, oh, that's great for a Myst game. This changes, like, everything. Now you're going to be, like, experimenting with these different environmental effects you can do to solve puzzles. Of the 4 ages you go, technically 5, one is a hub world, but of the 4 ages that you solve puzzles in, only 3 use this mechanic, and each only has one, like, special symbol you can do, and those are only ever used for, like, maybe 1 to 2 puzzles. In one age, it's frozen over, and you can draw a symbol to thaw the ice and refreeze the ice. In another, you can use it to pick up the wind. In another, you can make it rain. What you're actually doing is you're solving puzzles to get sight lines on these pedestals I mentioned, and those pedestals have symbols on them that you then draw. You drop the tablet on the floor, and the Borrow takes the tablet and puts it on the nearest pedestal, and now you can fast travel to that pedestal you saw in the distance. And once you have all 3 symbols per age, that section of the tablet is considered complete. And once you have all 4 tablets, you put them together, and you can make the choice of whether or not slavery is good. Much like Uru had that, like, weird meta aspect where it felt like the game was talking about its own development, I can't help but feel that a bit of that in here, where it's like, the game starts with Atris, who is played by Rand Miller, talking about how Myst has gone on too long. There should never have been 5 Mysts. And then, in this game, at the very start, one of the first things you see is the Myst linking book. But it's, like, old and, like, it's like, locked up. And if you choose the bad ending, David Ogden Stiers is like, hey, don't you want to go to Myst Island? And you go there, and it's decrepit. It's, like, stormy, the ship has sunk, the dock is caved in.
It's one step before pissed.
Yeah, there is this tremendously hilarious, almost makes the game 5 stars on its own moment, where you go up to the first, like, toggle switch on the dock. You know it, Brogan?
Yes.
And if you click it, it falls apart completely.
Aww.
And you go there, and if you give David Ogden Stiers the tablet, he's like, good, now I can use slavery. And your reward is you get to stay on Myst Island. He traps you there. And I feel like there's something, like, meta about that. You know? Something like, oh, you wanted to see Myst Island so bad, you can only do it in the bad ending, where you affirm slavery.
I think that makes sense, though. I feel like there's a desire for players to root themselves in nostalgia and want what came before. So in a way, it's punishing you. The problem is, you don't like this game. Like the future sucks.
It's just so boring, and I have no like connection to anything going on because one, it's not a sequel to like Myst 4, it's a sequel to WHOOOO, and WHOOOO I wasn't already hot on. I think WHOOOO is interesting, but interesting in the same way I think like Riven is interesting and respectable. And two, all like the plot lore stuff in this is stuff that was like just pulled out of their ass for this game. Like, yeah, the Borrow were like the culmination of what you did in WHOOOO, but the culmination in WHOOOO was like, oh, you freed them. And then you get to Myst 5 and it's like, but not really. And I think that's the issue with all these dunny plot lines in the Myst franchise, is it's like the third like Myst book ends with Atris being like, no, I'm not going to revive Dunny. Dunny was a flawed civilization. We're going to do our own thing. And then you get to WHOOOO and it's like, well, maybe we can, like, open the Dunny Cavern to the public and teach them about linking books and see what happens. And then kind of, I guess, with Myst 5, the revelation is that it's not about bringing back, like, the Roman Empire. It's finally doing reparations for the slaves that built the empire, and that's what gives Atris and Yisha closure. Okay. And I think there's something in that. A less boring game would be able to do something with that.
I see.
But, yeah, so Myst, as a franchise, ends on a phenomenally low point. This is F tier. I think this is, like, the worst Myst game and the worst Cyan game. And I am baffled that Rand Miller considers this the best one.
Wow. That sounds like a very frustrating experience.
Do you think it's only the best one because he got his fan fiction fully written?
I think so. I think he got way too lost in the lore. I think he stared too deep and he forgot that a story is not built on the 1,000 years of history. It's built on what's happening right here and now.
Yeah.
But we shall see. The Brothers Miller are queuing up their second attempt in the playthrough. We only have 5 games left in the Myst Minute, and like I said, they are majority remakes. The next immediate game in the timeline, I will be looking at Real Myst Masterpiece Edition, which released in 2014. That was Myst 1 remade in Unreal 4.
Okay.
So you know, despite everything saying, like, you know, we can't go back to Myst, I'm going back to the island. Yeah. And then, immediately after, we have Abduction, which is 2016, when Cyan revived themselves. They did a Kickstarter for, like, here is a new game by the original Myst creators. It's not a Myst game, it's a Myst-like game. So we shall see how they do when stripped of all the trappings of Myst.
Good.
And the lore is no longer a burden.
Good. Are we ready for the Variety Minute?
Yeah. That's, you know, very on theme, frustrating players.
This week's Variety Minute is intentional frustration in games. Suggested by Murph because there are moments in Super Paper Mario that are meant to push you a little bit. I think of the capitalist grind in No More Heroes. The shitty mini games.
That was the thing that kind of first came to mind when Murph mentioned it, was you guys talking about that in No More Heroes in particular. Mm-hmm. But as far as, you know, a broader, like, it's kind of like a broad assumption. I went ahead and did a quick Google search on the various gaming, like, lists and articles that people put out, and it seems like the range of what people consider, like, intentional frustration in games is quite broad, and I don't know if I would categorize it the same as some, right? Like, some people will say, like, oh, Dark Souls is like an intentional frustration design in games.
Yeah,
I think there is delineation. I've put together some categories.
Okay.
That I think. So I think there's, like, the most common one is frustration as a means to add runtime. You know, older, like, NES-type games, like original Ninja Gaiden, Ghouls and Ghosts, things like this, where it's like, this is, like, intentionally designed to be bullshit so that you, like, play it more. Because a game you beat in 2 hours is one you're just going to return to the rental shop.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then I think that there are games that are intentionally marketing themselves as hard on purpose, and sort of like as jokes. Something like Kaizo Mario, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. If you were on like coolflashgames.com, stuff like The World's Hardest Game or the Super Impossible Quiz. These, like, sell themselves on their difficulty. The Super Impossible Quiz famously has a mechanic where you can skip questions, and you have 5 skips. But when you get to the end of the quiz, there are 5 questions that you need to skip. So you can't have skipped any of the prior questions. That's like a joke on the player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think some games like Lisa the Painful, which I think has a lot in common with Super Paper Mario, actually.
Yeah.
Does these bits where it's like Nern talks to you for 5 hours, and that's meant to frustrate you, the player, or you climb a rope for a really long time, and at the top of the mountain is a middle finger statue, and then you have to climb back down.
Sometimes it's framed in a way that's not necessarily like, oh, you're supposed to be pissed off. I think of Metal Gear Solid. An iconic moment in every Metal Gear Solid game is the torture sequence. Like James Bond has a torture sequence, Solid Snake or Naked Snake goes through a torture scene, and the torture scene's always different. In the original Metal Gear Solid, you had to mash circle as hard as you possibly could. And if you failed, Meryl would die. And you would have multiple sequences of it. And, like, you would go back to the jail cell and you would talk on the codec to your people, and then be like, oh, here, put the controller to your wrist and it'll vibrate to heal you. So you're sort of becoming one-in-one with Snake, trying to, like, physically endure the problem. Or, like, Metal Gear Solid.
That's wild.
Yeah. Or Metal Gear Solid 3, it's a little bit more scripted, but it's in first person. And the moment the torture scene ends, spoiler alert for Metal Gear Solid 3, you lose your eye. So whenever you go into first person mode, you are without your eye. So it's harder for depth perception. It's closed off.
The 3DS remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 does this great thing where once you lose your eye, when you're in first person, the game's no longer 3D.
Yes. See, that's so fun.
I put down Metal Gear Solid 3 for a different category, which is like intentionally frustrating as a means to discomfort the player.
Yeah.
Like the Sorrow fight in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah.
All you're doing is walking slowly up a river, but you're passing by all the people and things you have killed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't killed anyone, that boss fight is super duper short. If you were a psychopath, it can take forever.
Yep.
Because you're meant to reflect on all the lives you've taken in pursuit of your goal. I think something in that vein is also like The Last of Us has famously bad shooting, but that's intentionally done so because it's quote-unquote realistic. And it adds like that little bit of panic. That's something Hole does, actually, is that there's no way to steady your aim. So you're when you aim down sights, you're always kind of bobbing a little. So you can never be precise. I don't remember if this made it into the Halo 3 episode, but our friend of the show, Will Berger, talks about... now, I think you too, Brogan, your favorite level in Halo 1 is the library.
Yes.
Because it's meant to intentionally, like, discomfort the player with how frustrating and slow and bogged down it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I legit enjoy it. It's not like, oh, I like it because it's bad. It's doing something different. And I don't need a Halo level to always be the same. And I think in terms of story, it does so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I think there's also this element of sort of being antagonistic with the player as a point of like genre deconstruction. Something like Spec Ops: The Line very much hates the player for the kind of game they're playing, and will play to that, where it's like it gives you achievements for not killing civilians and things like that. Or if you jump over to a completely different genre, Doki Doki Literature Club is all about frustrating and unnerving the player because it wants to make them feel bad for being a 30-year-old man playing a high school dating sim.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely.
It's one of the unique things that games can do, on a mechanical level, right? In terms of interaction, right? Like that another medium doesn't have the means to achieve. And so you often get these kind of provocative and interesting and engaging ways. I think that's the thing that I at least kind of envision more when we say intentionally frustrating mechanics, as opposed to like arbitrary difficulty, right? Or when in other people might consider something frustrating where that's more a product of the intensity at which the game is meant to be played, as opposed to an intentional design that's meant to evoke that from you, the player, right? Every time.
Yeah, I think about like fixed camera angles and tank controls in the original Resident Evils, and that's something that would like wholly unnerve a modern gamer, and you can tell that because when they remade those games, they did them over the shoulder. And when I played those, I was like, I'm probably not going to enjoy this because I don't like tank controls and I don't like fixed camera angles. I learned to cope, and I learned to see the beauty in that, because there is fear in not seeing what's like just off screen. You have to wait for the zombie to come into your view and confirm where it is. And you know that works well because when you play a game that has bad fixed camera angles, like Dino Crisis or Code Veronica, it sticks out like a sore fucking thumb.
And it's so tough because it makes it such a broad topic, because you could even go to like Castlevania. Like the Belmont jump is bad.
Yeah.
It's and the whip has a delay. And are they bad? Are they meant to be frustrating? No, kinda. And it's like it's something you have to just accept. And it's like this is how he moves, this is how he functions. And once you get over it and you understand that the game is built around it, it's actually really fun.
Yeah, and the thing with games like Castlevania, right, or, that are quote-unquote like these hardcore, like difficult games, some of the hardest games ever made or whatever, say, the thing that kind of counterbalances the difficulty or the turgidness of the controls is the consistency of everything. Yeah. Another game that I see pop up on a lot of these, frustrating games, right? They're usually like platformers or super difficult things, is the one I see a lot here, and almost every one of these is Cuphead. And I remember the rhetoric around Cuphead when it first came out too, about being one of the hardest games ever. And it's like it really isn't that it's hard or frustrating. It's just it's demanding, right? It demands precision. It demands understanding and learning, right? A level of engagement that and perfection, right, that some may not be willing to put in to get. But at no point playing those kind of games like that or Castlevania or whichever, right, do I feel personally frustrated, at least with like the game. It's only ever with myself, right? And like I know I'm not supposed to do that. I know I fucked it up again, right? And I just need to get it right. And and to me that's it's just not like frustrating in the way I think about it in terms of like from a design standpoint. I don't feel like the game was designed to be frustrating. It was designed to be challenging and precise.
Yeah. I've always said I see Dark Souls as exactly as hard as any 2D Mario I've played. Because I'm kind of mid at both. And I die the same amount in both. But I made it through Sin's Fortress the first time, and I only died to the boss at the top because he threw me off the ledge. And after, like, years of hearing, like, oh, this game's so hard, you can't even, like, pause it. In getting to it, I'm like, oh, you just dodge and hit. That's all you do. And I guess for the time, that felt revolutionary and felt like people had to be awake for that. And I think sometimes the frustration, one might even call it friction, is there to poke the player into a particular type of play that the game is suited for. And that's kind of hard to do when genres become so standardized.
Mm-hmm. You know, probably one of the better, like, juxtapositions is probably, like, the original Super Mario Bros. And then, like, a Lost Levels, right? Where you've got, where you see the difference in the design of those levels specifically. One is designed for, you know, to kind of, like, engage in, you know, with the players and at, you know, a kind of reasonable level, whereas one is notorious for its, you know, the difficulty and
like pushing the limits of what they can do in that type of game. How do you feel?
And what is fair?
How do you feel when, like, a game comes out and it's like, this is for pros? You know, this is for the sickos of the genre. Do you feel excluded by that? Because I have seen some people that are like, I can't stand the Star Road in Super Mario World because it's so difficult, I don't have fun with it, but I want that, like, 100% completion. Does that frustrate you when you get to something like that?
No, I don't think so, especially because a lot of the games that I play and love and enjoy, I don't 100% a lot of them. You know, a lot of older games, 100%ing stuff just meant grinding your life away at nonsensical bullshit.
Yeah.
Just to get an extra star on the title screen or whatever, right? And I never did that. And I never felt like I missed out as a result. If I wanted to know what that was like, that's, you know, what the YouTube is for. I go look up what other people did, and I'm like, yeah. But I'm also happy to enjoy a lot of games, you know, nowadays through other people's experiences, right? Through watching people play through or talk about games and break them down and stuff. I don't need to play every single little things, as my current sabbatical has kind of indicated as well, right? I'm not taking in-game content still. I just feel less the need to put in all of the time myself.
I think about, David may connect to this, Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. The second Elite Four, the rematch with the Elite Four, their levels get up into, like, the 80s, and I think even the champion is, like, 92, right? Like,
yeah, it's something like that.
You have to grind to be able to match them. And yeah, type advantage and stats can make a difference, but I remember being like, okay, I'm going to beat the second Elite Four, and that was hours of my day spent just, like, farming the same route over and over to grind up my party till they were all, like, level 80. And then I felt confident to go in, went in, got my butt kicked, came back, grinded them up to 85, went back in and won. And that's incredibly slow and tedious because the wild Pokemon cap out at, like, 50. And you get such diminishing returns on the XP.
I think the difference, or at least the way I see it there, right, is that doesn't feel intentional so much as, like, an oversight or, like, a lack of consideration. If I remember, because they didn't have the rematches in the original games, right? And a common complaint of the Pokemon series is the lack of difficulty in the later game, right? Like, even in that series, right, the original E4 challenge isn't even at level 50, I don't think.
Yeah, no, like, original Johto, like, you cap out, you finish Johto at, like, level 30.
Which, yeah, it's kind of insane, right? So, the fact that they gave you harder fights for the later rematches and the remakes is really nice. But I don't think that the level gap and the lack of grinding, you know, like, easier grinding opportunity was intentional. It wasn't like this is meant to make the player feel like it's going to be a real challenge, like an uphill battle to take on this. I think it really, that's just a case of, like,
they didn't think to
really
put in stronger
scaling.
wild encounters. Yeah,
we probably should have done that so this wasn't such a miserable experience. And I think that ties in with all sorts of things, right? Like, I mean, if you want to get into, like, the more technical elements of it too, for a long time, EV training for competitive stuff in Pokemon was just grinding. You're just grinding on wild Pokemon specific ones. You had to go and identify, oh, these are the ones that give me the attack EVs, so I need to fight 50 of these Machops or whatever, right, to get the maximum.
And now you do it all
stat.
on a touch screen.
Yeah, you play a bunch of mini games, or you feed them a bunch of whatever sandwiches or candies or whatever the fucking thing they have now is. But yeah, and that was not intentionally right. It wasn't designed to be that way,
because
especially those mechanics. Those were all hidden mechanics, right?
Yeah,
they were supposed to.
That was to add
make each
variance.
Pokemon like right? Like they have these different hidden stats that will make them ever so slightly different, right? I was like, oh my Houndoom has 2 less attack than my friends across the street, right? So he's like his own different being, or whatever, right? It was never meant to be like actually engaged in with a mechanic, but of course that's not how games ultimately end up, right? We're gonna crack those bad boys open and understand them inside and out, and exploit them for maximum gain. For the real gooners out here.
And the moment they became aware that players were getting really into that shit, they made it more accessible. And I think that's the difference between like intentionally frustrating and unintentionally. Unintentionally, a good dev will correct. Intentionally, a dev will say, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, and I do think your two distinctions kind of really wraps it up and defines it there, and that there are the games that are intentionally frustrating to just use the maximum amount of your time, right, to get the most out of it, as the old games kind of were. Like if someone, the developers of Ghosts and Goblins or original Mega Man or whatever were to go back now, they wouldn't change anything like the Pokemon devs to make things easier, right? Because that was how it was made. It was made to make you take forever and lose lives and have to start from the beginning. That was the idea. Arbitrary difficulty there, whereas other ones are the more frustrating to get you to engage with the concept of it, right? Again, like the No More Heroes example being a good one. It's like it's meant to make you think about the tedious repetition and the experience here, and what it means to engage with a video game on a non-traditional gameplay, level.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue, because I think there was something in the water in the Wii era that made devs want to frustrate their players a little.
This week's game of the week is Super Paper Mario, released in 2007 for the Nintendo Wii, developed by Intelligent Systems. It's the first gameplay departure for the Paper Mario franchise. Super Paper Mario is a 2D platformer that can turn 3D at any moment. It features a core party of Mario, Bowser, Peach, and Luigi, using different abilities to finish wacky Paper Mario adventures. The story is that an interdimensional villain named Count Bleck and his evil cohorts try to marry Bowser and Peach to summon the Chaos Heart and destroy the universe. Mario must go through different doors and collect pure hearts and team up with unlikely friends and a bunch of bizarre geometrical shapes with different abilities to save the day. David, what did you think of Super Paper Mario?
I brought this one to the table because it's always kind of been the odd duck in the series. It's not hated by any means, I don't think. It's still kind of considered within the good half, right? Before the series departed, right, from its tradition, which is strange.
This is a departure.
I know, right? But I think
it's only weird because people like it.
Yeah, but anyway, I had a fondness for it. I played it when it was initially out, and I at the end of this, upon revisit, I am a bit conflicted, but I think I can say safely that I do like the game still. It's a good game. But there's some nuance and criticisms within that appreciation still.
This is my first time playing Super Paper Mario. I'm a stated fan of Thousand Year Door, famously. But Super Paper Mario always kind of fascinated me, and I really don't know why I never played it, because I had a Wii, I liked Paper Mario, I kind of dug all it was putting down in, like, the commercials. Just never got around to it. I saw YouTube clips, because there would always be, like, the oddest names for them, like Luigi Goes to Hell, and Bowser's Wedding, and Tippy is kidnapped by Francis. Weirdly explicit reference to the 1963 novel The Collector. And just never, and I was like, wow, what weird things they're doing in this Mario game. Playing it now for the first time, I'm, conflicted? I get it. I get what the game is going for. I get what I'm picking up what it's putting down. I think it's putting too much down, and a lot of it could be smaller. You know? The main thing with this game is that it likes to waste the player's time. Intentionally so.
Let me ask you, I think we're just gonna get out and say this. It wastes time because that's what fucking Paper Mario does. Paper Mario is like a bunch of fucking dialogue, and you're playing it, half the reason you're playing it is for the dialogue, for the funny moments, etc., etc. But when you get rid of the giant chunks of time of an actual RPG and you're left with the platformer, now it becomes much more of a focus. Now it becomes, like, in terms of ratio, you're seeing a lot more talking on the screen than you used to.
Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to, you know, if you set aside, like, the very intentional times where they waste your time, like when Mario goes to a debtor's prison, or you have to memorize a really long block combination after typing in please 5 times, that's funny. If you set aside all of that, and the themes about how, you know, you're getting your time wasted, and in the background you just see the apocalypse coming. It's omnipresent at all times. You know, setting aside all of that, there is no need for this game to be as long as it is, and weirdly as tedious in its gameplay as it is. Like,
I think...
Yeah.
Yeah, the gameplay is the thing that really is where it kind of falls apart. Because a lot of those, like, jokey things or time-wasting, those more meta bits and stuff, they're not absent even in the prior 2 games in particular, right? You know, I think Thousand Year Door especially has a couple of those little bits, right? And they're jokes, right? They're the writing. That's part of the charm of the game. But it's, when the gameplay doesn't satisfy in those in-between moments, that's where it, you know, it feels really, like, drawn out, particularly because of the level structure of the game here. One of the things I felt playing through this time that in contrast with the other Paper Mario games is that the level structure in which you just go one right after another all through until you finish one world, it doesn't, it's kind of at the sacrifice of the hub world that they've created, which initially feels just as intriguing or promising as Toad Town or Rogueport from the prior games, but, you know, flip side and flop side ultimately just feel kind of vacant, right? Like, I feel less incentivized to explore, despite all of the opportunities they provide you to between chapters, because you're not really using it as much of a hub as you would in the prior games.
And I wanted to highlight here another thing is I'll defend Bleck's supporting cast of villains.
Yeah.
I think they are incredibly strong as villains. That being said, if you look at the hub and the areas, yes, there's a lot of variety in terms of, like, where you're going, but there's not a lot of variety in, like, I'm just gonna fucking say it. There's too many fucking shapes. If I was Miyamoto, I completely understand. Fuck this. Just have bob-ombs and fucking toads. I completely understand him if he played this game.
It's
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
weird that this game has a party system, but then also a secondary party system for the pixels. And it
Yes.
really bugged me towards the end that the pixels all have these like bombastic introductions where they like show off their personality and then they never fucking talk again.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's very much, you know, kind of a recurring issue from the previous games with the partners, but it feels more pronounced here. I think because they really have like no dialogue, right? There's still dialogue for the characters, you know, regardless. Like some of them you may never see those dialogue again if you never use those characters, but here, yeah, it's explicitly like, yeah, you get the throwing pixel or the bomb pixel, and then you just never hear them, and they're fun. They're good characters. I think they are. Again, not equivalent to the prior party members, but I think a good substitute. I don't mind them in terms of if they had gone back to the parties after this, right? They would have been a fun addition still. But the fact that they have less presence is definitely a detriment. But I think even more so because there's just a very clear like which ones you're going to use, right? There are some that are just purely situational, don't have any application other than specific puzzles that are needed for them, right? And then there are the very clear overpowered ones that you're just going to use all the time.
That's my biggest bugbear with this game, is actually you can do too many things. The breadth of the toolkit is huge, and there's a lot of overlap where it's like, this is a hammer for breaking rocks. It's different from the bomb, you know? And also you can swap between 4 characters that have different mobility and attack options, to the point where, like, these levels, they're very maze-like, and sometimes you reach a dead end, and it's like, well, is this a dead end, or am I forgetting a mechanic I have? And a lot of times, it came down to, oh, I forgot Peach has, like, a glide, or I forgot I can look for hidden doors, you know?
Well, what I do like in regards to the main cast is there is continuity. This game does feel a lot like a cross between Super Mario Brothers 2, and I mean the Doki Doki Panic version,
right?
And the Super Mario RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Super Mario RPG also, like, I think this is a good highlight for Bowser. This is one of Bowser's better games. I think one of the biggest telling things is in a Mario RPG how good Bowser is.
Yeah.
And this one, he's pretty fucking good. There's just a lot of random shit too, though. Like, you know the fucking mechanic that makes you grow super big? How fucking useless is that?
Yeah, it's just a
fucking
gimmick.
I mean, it's new Super Mario Brothers shit.
Yeah, they were really into this idea of, like, the Mega Mushroom. And again, when I get back to this game is tedious when it doesn't need to be, that power-up takes forever to fucking activate.
Yep.
The one time they got me is when the Koopa uses it. And that's like the second time it appears. And that is hilarious when that happens.
That's a good bit. Yeah, it's like a kaiju battle.
Yeah. It just doesn't... And then you get all these, like, these activated items that, like, are screen clears. It just doesn't... There's not a cohesion with this gameplay. There's an idea. There's a concept. I think they really should have committed to making it more like an actual Metroidvania rather than these, like, segmented levels, because the levels they just don't flow right to me. Like,
I think the idea, right, is that this is, in so much of the structure and the gameplay, it's very clearly trying to marry the Mario RPG style with the classic 2D platforming Mario, right? Like, those evocations of Super Mario Bros. 2 especially feel very pertinent, you know, and in the way you pick up items and throw them and stuff too, right? That reminds me a lot of that, and the levels. So I think that was the idea, and I feel that in spirit, if not necessarily in execution throughout the game. And because of that, the gameplay can often feel like it goes on too much. Again, for as much as you can do in the gameplay, I just feel like there's ultimately very little, and I'm just like, I'm racing to the end of a level, right? And like, if it's a really lengthy bit, I think the worst one I remember was towards the end, is like climbing up all the clouds and shit and backtracking to like find the right fruit.
Mario's Divine Comedy is definitely the low point of the game.
There might be some others. I'm not a big fan of the space level either.
No, the space level blows.
So empty. It's so empty. But, for every one of those, right, I feel like we've got really great ones. Like, I really enjoy the Kragnon level, right? Which, like, everyone there looks like they're out of a 90s aesthetic,
They look like fucking Mike, Lou, and Og.
Yeah. That's a great embodiment of like the kind of great character writing and environmental, design and new, creatures that these Mario RPGs are able to dream up, right? This is like kind of like the exemplar of what you want out of a new, Paper Mario game. And so you got like that dynamic there. But then that's followed up by like the Samurai world, and which is supposed to be a big like tournament thing.
I'm conflicted about the Samurai world because
yes, yeah, I think that's the problem with it.
Well, let me say my take with the Samurai world, and like, it's the combat. Let's talk about combat real quick. You're fucking jumping, right? And you're jumping on the guys. There is a reason why when you have a boss battle in Mario, it only takes 3 fucking hits to beat them. There's a reason. And it's not to see 2 damage and then, I have to keep doing it. Like, there's nothing engaging more about it. There's a million mechanics here, but ultimately for combat, you're going to be doing the same fucking things. And it's not evolved, it's not engaging. And with the Samurai tournament, it's like, it's very apparent, and like, it's also one of the optional things you can do after the game is over, to go back and try to go through like all of it, and like, it's just like a big
It's really long and tedious, and that's like the issue with it, right? It's like 100 fights, and you're just doing the same thing in every one. There's no variety in that, no matter how they change up the enemy or what you have to do. And yeah, I think that's the biggest issue with the game, is that on a combat level, it's just not like, it's not complex, right? Despite all of the options of everything, which was always a strength of the previous turn-based ones, right? Even through their simplicity, there were so many different ways to approach it, and unique fights that gave you different challenges to overcome. And yeah, that's just not the case here.
I think Samurai Kingdom is really the nadir of the whole experience, because I think that's where like the theme and what they're doing with the gameplay come to the forefront, because they tell you up front you're going to do these 100 battles before you can get the pure heart, and in the background the void is just getting bigger all the time. And you're going through these matches, and it's still getting bigger, and you're thinking, oh my god, we're wasting time, And that's what happens. After 20 battles, Bleck shows up, and he's like, yeah, game over. You wasted too much time. And the Samurai guys are like, but tradition! And then there's like the one like creepy guy who just like laughs. It's like Majora's Mask. He's like, well, it's all over, And then you get to part 2 of that world, where the kingdom's gone. It's a void, and you walk to the right for like a minute. And there's something in that where that is much better done, because that communicates it's all fucking gone. You wasted time.
It's a very distinct difference there in terms of the frustration. The 20 fights feel so tedious and long in a bad way,
yes.
But the minute-long walk of nothing feels tedious in a depressing and effective way, right? It's like you just feel the isolation and the emptiness and the destruction that's happened. Like, for real, this place is gone from existence.
I guess I just come down to, it's that age-old question of should games be fun. But asterisk, the question is really, should Mario games be fun?
I mean, I think it is. It's just in where is it fun? Because, like, I think the story is fun. I think that's the primary selling point of the game, I would argue. I think this one probably has the most compelling narrative and, like, set of, like, characters within the narrative of any of the Paper Mario games.
I mean, you search Super Paper Mario on YouTube, you're immediately hit with, like, 2 video essays saying this is the best story Nintendo's ever done. You know?
Yeah.
And
I would not go that far, but...
yeah. I mean, I feel it. I think it's the most interesting Mario story ever told. Like, I wouldn't knock the variety in this game in any capacity, especially when it comes to, like, the worlds themselves. Like, yeah, there's a samurai world, there's a caveman world, there's an incel world. Yeah. It just really doesn't, like... Let me float this out there. If this was, like, still made by Nintendo, but it wasn't a Mario title, and it was, like, its own original thing, would it still hit? Or does the fact that it's using the trappings of Mario, especially Paper Mario, to get its themes across, help it?
I think the Mario-ness of it is very important, particularly how it plays with the expectation of the RPG series, but also marries it with the platformer elements and the particular callbacks, you know, historically there, and the way it evokes things. And tonally, I think it opens up for certain moments and kind of deviations and jokes that a untested series, you know, it just wouldn't land with it. Like, the juxtaposition wouldn't be there.
From this point onwards... this is editor Brogan here. From this point onwards, my audio got royally messed up. It messed up earlier, and maybe if you were perceptive enough, you would notice some weird cuts. But this time around, I had to do a Frankenstein edit. So if the conversation now feels stilted at this point, it's because it is. But David and Murph's commentary remains intact. So I preserved it mostly in its entirety. Thank you guys. Sorry about that.
Sticker Star has the issue of having both the aesthetic and world and writing of the game suck and the gameplay suck. It's bad on both fronts. Whereas here, it really feels like it's just the gameplay that kind of, like, frustrates you more often than not. But even then, it has its shining moments, right? Like, I think, one of my favorite moments in the whole game is where it suddenly turns into a turn-based Dragon Quest style, or, classic RPG boss battle against the multicolored Chain Chomp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the different options, like you can select the pixels still from there, or like your item menu, or swap between things, and it just changes the gameplay in a fundamental way, but still that is, that you can intuit based on how you've been playing the game so far, like what's going to be effective and what's not. And I think that change up, and the joke of that bit, right, wouldn't communicate if it had been a standard RPG up until now, or a more like, in the Paper Mario style. Even if you took like the turn-based, partner style gameplay of the Thousand Year Door, and then you turned it into a Dragon Quest style game like we see here, it, like that moment wouldn't feel that different.
Now, is the joke of that moment that since it takes place in the afterlife, that they're saying that turn-based RPGs are dead?
I don't know if that's the bit, but
yeah. Let me float this out there, and I will be as serious as I can with you guys and the listener when it comes to the plot of this game, Super Paper Mario. This is just the plot of Kingdom Hearts 1. It's a little, yeah. Well, he was actually Ansem, Seeker of Darkness in that game, but he was actually his apprentice Xehanort. Let's not get bogged down in semantics.
I see the parallels a little bit, right, with all the
Riku
things about
is Luigi.
Hearts and Darkness. Yeah, he's got his Mr. L turn.
I think it is bold to do the story how they chose to do it for a Mario game, especially with the post-level interstitials, where you're just reading text, dialogue between these two lovers that can't be together. And all you have is like this pleasant music, the sound of rain, and even like the dialogue like ding 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 when the text is on screen. That's like done much softer and gentler. It's not really a reveal of who those characters are.
It's pretty apparent.
Yeah, I guess that's what got me, is that, and maybe this is, I don't know if I want to make the statement of a good story is one that surprises me, but for as much as this story was touted up, it was kind of predictable, and I don't know, there wasn't really like any turn of phrase that sticks with me, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I do like the cast. Like, I'll back up what Brogan's saying. No, I guess. I don't know what I wanted. It didn't hit at the end, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to dissect why. I think I definitely felt that feeling, and I think the level preceding it has kind of a lot to do with it, but again, also just the mismatch. So the length in general, I think just you feel it at all points, and it can make it kind of a trudge to get through the end, but you still feel like you want to because of the characters, right? Like you said, Count Bleck is kind of a terrific, very humorous villain. The writing has never been more on point, I think, for the series in terms of character writing, and just getting really charmed by all of the villains, and everyone you're kind of coming across there in the wider story, right? Like I said, from some levels are better than others, but everyone remembers the best parts, I think, and that's kind of what keeps the game so well loved and remembered. Mm-hmm.
I think Origami King is on the same level, maybe a little better. It definitely needs I haven't played it since it initially came out, but I remember it feeling, at least mechanically, like from a gameplay perspective, far more like kind of rich to kind of get into. It still had its moments of tedium, but
what I'll say about this game in terms of like the trilogy is this is the one that I feel the creator like loved with every fiber of their being, like this is a game, this is someone's like testament. And there's something I've seen recently when it comes to like animated movies where it's like you can't feel that the animators and writers love the characters they're making. When you get to like a character like Chunks in this game, you feel every fiber of your being that the people making him think he is the funniest and coolest character in the world. And they're kind of right, like,
I agree.
It does feel disappointing that, like, after this game, and it got so much pushback when it first came out, that Nintendo was like, well, we're just going to go back to the well, And I think I am more interested in this game existing in the world than without, because it is a piece of a person.
Yeah, it does feel more unique and special because of the context in which it exists, right? If you try to just view it in a vacuum as a singular game, then I think its eccentricities they don't feel as pronounced. But because it's such a departure, because it, while still remaining of a piece tonally and stylistically with the other Paper Mario games that preceded it, and in juxtaposition to what came after, I think it really stands out. It really is like the dark horse of the series there, and that it's like this kind of little odd little one that stands out, and it's like not great, but it's so distinct in its kind of spattering appeals that you can't help but be taken by it and kind of want to make exception for it while still kind of acknowledging that it's like, yeah, it's not, it's not truly like good though, like it requires explanation regardless from where you're coming at it from.
At this point in time, I talk about Luigi's presence in the story.
Yeah. I think that look, I'm a hardcore Luigi fan. I love the Luigi-isms in this game. I've even like played that fan game where it's Luigi's story from Thousand Year Door, but you actually play it. There's something in Luigi being part of the final boss and all the Mr. L aspect to it that I think it feels weirdly underexplored because it can't be explored because he's Luigi, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Here I cite Luigi's bizarre final smash in Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yes. Yes, there's this period in the Wii where they're like, Luigi's, like, has a darkness to him, you know? He's so pale from standing in his brother's shadow. And it just feels... Because Luigi is, like, very prominent in the game, right? Like, more than Peach and Bowser.
Yeah. I mean, because he's a very important part of the, you know, the villain narrative, too.
I just feel I would have liked an actual resolution with that, based on everything they were setting up, but they can't because Mario is, like a child in the Paper Mario universe. He waves and says
Luigi,
hello.
Right? The thing with Luigi, always, right, is that Luigi's can never truly have his own time to shine, despite having his own franchise within the series, despite having a whole year for himself and everything, right? No matter how playable Luigi is, we're never going to get, like, his time in the spot. He's never going to get his nuance. We're not going to flesh out his dynamic any more than we're getting in these RPG games in particular, right? Where he has, like, actual
Luigi's never going to go a Super Saiyan form that Mario has not already done.
Luigi is the Vegeta of the Mario series.
Here I cite that Mario and Luigi as a RPG series is one of my favorites because, at the very least, it redeems and looks at Luigi, at least through the dynamic of with his brother, and it makes him the essential party member for that franchise.
Luigi's Mansion is all about how he needs Mario. You have a dedicated Mario
in all
button.
of these, you can't have a character arc for Luigi, right? Because part of his whole appeal is his second fiddle status, right?
Well, I don't think you can have a character arc for any Mario character. That's kind of like the whole crux of...
Yeah.
I think the crux of why this feels weird as a Mario game, because it's a story, a narrative that begs a character arc for its main character, but you can't because it's Mario, it's Paper Mario. He waves and says, hello! You know, instead it has to be foisted upon this secondary floating shape, Tippy, and the main villain, Count Bleck, and his cast of characters.
I think so. Do you guys have any like big highlights from the game? Anything that you like kind of really stood out? Yeah, that's kind of like the most famous one, right? The whole sudden dating sim bit is iconic. When
I tell you my jaw dropped when it switched to a dating sim.
It's so good. It's such a good moment.
You know, I think, like, it's every other level is good, right? Because after Francis, you go to space with Squirps.
Yeah, which
Squirps sucks.
It does have the kind of the terrific, or I don't know about terrific, but it was always kind of weird to me. Have you ever noticed, like, this trend of, like, the paper, you know, the hand asking for, like, a piece of paper from the bathroom bit, right? Like, you know that bit, right? Like, it's in, like, 3 Zelda games. It's just like
that's a Japanese yokai. That's like a legitimate.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know. It just stands out to me. It's so odd and specific, right? It's just like a weird, quirky thing that keeps popping up in these games, and I'm like, huh. I don't know. I just notice the frequency. Oh, and also kind of like funny, I guess, right? Like there's this humor in it. I don't know. It's
children love toilets.
They do. But that's like it from that whole space level. That's like the only like memorable moment to me.
And here we thought we were wrapping up, but basically I mentioned that we haven't talked at all about the 3D turn mechanic, where it swaps from 2D to 3D.
Yeah.
That is a good point. And I think that's just because is less complex of a mechanic than it appears at first blush, right? It's really cool. I like it. I think it provides for some fun puzzles throughout the game, but none that are really like that are gonna stick with you forever, right? I liked some that are like, oh, it's like there's instructions for what to do written on the side of this thing, and it's a fun way to kind of really revamp the 2D presentation of both the platformer saga that you've got with Mario historically, as well as the Paper Mario series, right? And this idea that he is flat, like it's a new dimension, literally, for him to take on as like a power set thing, right? And it provides a lot of fun. I think the first boss fight, makes a decent exhibition of it as a mechanic, but again, it's never deeper than that, really.
I think the issue comes from the combat is worse when you're 3D,
Oh yeah.
Because now you're trying to hit a flat 2D sprite in a 3D space, and that's tricky. I think I like the 3D. I like how it's implemented. I think there are a lot of moments where I was maybe not wowed, but quietly bemused by switching to 3D and seeing like how the platforms switch up. I think there's some decent enough puzzles, like in the caveman level with the minecarts, where the minecarts go different directions on whether you're 3D or not.
Yeah.
I think it comes back into that tedium thing in the breadth of the toolkit, where it's like, okay, I've reached a dead end. Is this actually a dead end? Let me swap to 3D. No. Let me look for hidden doors with Tippy. No. And the actual solution is several screens away. There's a button you need to hit that spawns a pipe, And I think the game would be a lot faster if all characters could go 3D, but then I guess I don't really know what you give Mario to do.
I think another thing with the 3D is that you've got the timer, right? You only have so long you can be in 3D before you take damage. But ultimately, it feels like it's really not that significant a punishment, and it's not really necessary, I feel like. Like, what's
It's a weird
the issue
kind of
with
like
being in 3D?
It's like Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, where by going 3D, you can actually skip a lot of encounters. But by doing so, you risk damaging yourself,
But they also can just solve that, and they do in a lot of instances, by just having 3D specific encounters, right? Like there's like different enemies on the field, or different obstacles, right? Like there are just walls in like 3D that won't be there in 2D, right? Because they'll be flat. So it's not really that much of a issue.
I mean, it plays
it's a weird limitation to me.
It plays into the game's other big theme, which is like perspective, right? Like literal perspective. How Count Bleck looks like this sinister, crazy villain until you learn like his point of view.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like, to a degree, to Luigi. This game makes you look at things from Luigi's point of view. And that is a strength of the writing, is that all the characters, barring the Mario crew themselves, have a nuance to them. I like Nastasia's a little sort of infatuation with Bleck, but she's not like she's like Pam from The Office. She's not bold enough to follow up on it. And how Chunks thinks that he's actually a righteous hero, giving villains a good chunkin'. And then the most one-dimensional character of all is actually Dimentio himself, because he just wants to rule.
Yeah, he's like the ultra super villain, the real guy behind.
He's literally Kefka.
By the end
like,
yeah. So I just like anything else, right? It's like lots of interesting ideas, good, some good execution here and there, but ultimately, it's a little more empty than you want. I think that about kind of categorizes the whole game.
It's a fucking bunch of geometric shapes instead of
it's
real
just
characters.
Shapes and beats.
Sorry.
It's fucking knack. I think
Yes.
if they did a remake for Switch 2 that added some quality of life and some trimming of fat, this would go over great with the Zoomers. Because it's got that Adventure Time-esque humor that they all love.
Overall, I think it's a unique one, worth talking about, worth bringing here, particularly in comparison to when you guys talked, both about the first Paper Mario and the remake of Thousand Year Door when it came out here and there. So glad it was covered, but yeah, it's definitely. Yeah,
I wonder how many.
It's got a few asterisks.
I wonder how many Playboy Cardi albums Abram would get through to beat this one.
Yeah, that's a great question. Whew.
Well, we are winding down. David, you don't do too much in the content creation sphere these days. Is there anything you would like to plug though?
I meant to. Should have brought something today, like I did previously.
Last time you said to plug our dentists.
Yeah. To go to your doctors, or no. Last time it was a Raid Shadow Legends plug.
Oh, that's right.
This time I'm searching. I'm gonna take a step out of the ship here, right, and try and find my way. Thanks for the UFO suggestion, bro. I'll take that. I guess I'll plug UFO 50, right, so everyone else can play that too.
There you go. Yeah, it's on Switch. That's the best way to play it, too. The moment it was on Switch, I was like, oh, thank God.
I will buy it right now.
Yeah.
That's a game you play while it's resting on your belly.
Yeah.
Well, for plugs, yes. Sans David, you can check out the Daydreamcast YouTube channel, where we throw up video versions of the podcast, as well as some supplemental things. Brogan did a whole tier list of his favorite JoJo's and their bizarre adventures. You can watch our 2-hour Let's Play of Goof Troop, where we get real goofy with it. You can hear about Gussie. You can watch our Halo 3 Let's Play, which is a hypercut with a lot of different gags. We did that with a full squad with our friends Abram and Will. And a lot of other little miscellaneous videos you can be found there. You can also tune into my other podcast called This Podcast is a Bad Idea, where about once a month or so, I and my co-host Fru, David's partner, look at different niche internet topics. We just recorded a 4-hour episode ranking the American Girl dolls. And we have another one in the pipeline looking at a real bizarre niche internet community with a very specific health problem. And that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's concerning and intriguing at the same time. All right. Okay. Excited to hear that.
Guys, it is time. Did you know, Murph, pop quiz. What is episode 1 of the Daydreamcast?
Isn't it Minute?
That was episode 0. It was a pilot.
Oh, you fucking tricked me. Oh, what's the first question. Pokemon? Is it Bulbasaur, Arceus, or Rhydon?
Actually, as I think about it, I think it was Professor Layton. But it was like episode 2 or 3 that was NES Batman.
Right, yeah, early.
So we're going all the way back to 2008 or some shit, 2009.
Yeah.
And we are going to fucking play Batman Arkham Asylum. Thank you so much, David. As always, we'll probably see you again in another 6 months.
Yeah, something like
so.
that. I'll bug you guys.
Once he's beaten all 50 UFOs.
Yes.
Come back with that. That sounds like a good assignment.